us talk about the fissure. Like I said, the fissure is like the James Bond of Iontophoresis machine.
I like that. I'm going to steal that.
And this is because of the additional updates and the function, just the general function of the fissure Iontophoresis machine. Because throughout the interview that we've been having, and thanks to Zoom for telling us that we have a time limit, you've talked about some very important updates, and I want to give you the floor to tell us what is the latest with the Fischer Iontophoresis machine. What should we expect?
Great. So probably right now, the number one thing we're talking to patients about is the type of current of the device. Direct current, from everything you read, if you go to the National Library of Medicine and look at published papers from other dermatologists throughout the years, a lot of those studies have been used with our device, but specifically they'll call attention to the effectiveness of direct current. So with our Fischer, what we wanted to do is first make sure that we have a direct current. But from our experience working with patients we've been doing this since the 1950s, so it's actually like our 75-year anniversary of being in business. But wanted to also give patients who were maybe a little sensitive to the treatment, maybe they have high body resistance, maybe they're just a younger patient and parents want to do everything they can to create a comfortable experience. It's nice to have that pulsed current as a switch option. But for most patients we're working with, if you want to get results quickly, if you want to go longer periods of time in between using your iontophoresis device, make sure you have a direct current model. The second biggest thing we talk to patients about is the metal-free electrodes. So here is an example of those silicon graphite electrodes. This would be for the water bath trays for palmar and plantar patients who are treating hands and feet. You've got the smaller axillary electrodes, which we've already shown are a lot more flexible to contour to that area more effectively. But still, some devices out there are metal-based. And those will have recurring costs as those electrodes deteriorate, but they also have some safety concerns to be aware of, from the chance of open metal contact burns coming into contact with that metal electrode, even metal ions that are released into the water, which are then delivered into the skin. And so traditionally, patients with metal allergies were not able to use an iontophoresis device, but now, because of the new electrode technology, they finally can. So that's been a big thing for patients. Number three, the ability to treat hands and feet at the same time. That dual treatment has been huge. A lot of patients we talk to, they'll say, well, I want to focus on the hands first. And it makes sense, right? It's the most public facing for most patients. It's also the most problematic. And so in the past, a lot of patients would have just prioritized their hands. They would have let their feet continue to be sweaty, and they just would have worn extra socks and not wear those sandals and things like that. I even once had a patient who would saran wrap their feet underneath of their socks in the past. But the idea with the Fischer is that you don't have to choose, right? You don't have to prioritize one area over the other. You can treat your hands and feet at the same time just by having one water bath tray on the table here, one on the floor, 2 hands in one, 2 feet in the other. And for reference, I'm 6'5", so I've got fairly large hands and I wear size 13 shoes. So I fit comfortably into both of these trays. And then, of course, the attachments for the underarms, right? And they integrate into the same main control unit. It's not a whole separate machine that you have to buy. So you're able to treat palmar, plantar, and axillary hyperhidrosis in any number of ways, all with one device, okay? So the attachments, the accessories, and just that user experience has been huge. then kind of going down that user experience, functionality wise is a big thing for patients, right? How easy is it? You can see the device here. There's only 3 buttons. Okay, it's a set and a left and a right. But a lot of times you won't even have to press those, because once you have your treatment settings established, there's a memory function. So once you turn the device on, your settings are already there. Just press the set button one time to acknowledge that you're there. Place your hands in the trays. You'll hear a beep and you'll see the timer start to count down. So with that one-touch start and memory, it's really easy to set up and get started with the device. Lastly, the polarity switch has been huge for patients who have experiences with older manual iontophoresis devices, even like our legacy MD1A model. They previously would have to have someone flip a switch for them halfway through the treatment. So it's not something you could be self-sufficient with. Now you don't have to worry about that. It's going to change the direction of the polarity halfway through you. And what's cool is actually on the screen, I'll turn it on here, but there's an active treatment display. It's probably difficult to see with the glare, but on either side of the milliampere numbers, you'll actually notice a bar graph that raises and lowers to demonstrate how the current is being ramped up to begin the treatment. It's going to ramp down and ramp back up as the polarity is switched halfway through. And then finally, it's going to ramp down at the end of the treatment. And what this helps create is just a seamless, comfortable experience, kind of like your car slowly accelerating, right? Maintaining the speed limit all the way to your destination. But in the past, you couldn't see that, right? Or patients with high resistancies, they'd be treating and they never knew that the treatment was never working because their resistancy was so high that the device was never actually able to achieve any of the milliampere numbers. So no matter how high they cranked it up, they still couldn't feel it and they weren't understanding why. Now with the bar graphs on the screen, you'll quickly identify if the device is stalling out with a resistancy issue, which then is easily solvable with a number of additions or tweaks that you can make. But again, it's just everyone trust their eyes, even down to your timer, counting down the seconds. I know some other devices just go with like the minute-based timers, but you see the seconds, you see everything right on your screen. It's very clear, very easy to use for patients of all ages.
Do you guys have an iontophoresis machine for facial sweat?
Great question. So the craniofacial attachments aren't currently FDA cleared here in the United States. However, there is a third-party manufacturer that makes attachments that do integrate with our device. You'll see in the back here, these ports, that's the important thing. So although we don't make or carry them, there is another company that we can refer patients to for those attachments. And they are attachments for everything from craniofacial, which has a face mask attachment that you would soak in tap water and wear with the device, to universal electrodes that are more flexible, can contour to any part of the body, even for the back, the neck. So for some of our patients here, we'll get them our underarms bundle, for example, because that gives you the base electrodes and the main device and components that you'll need. And sometimes they'll order those third-party attachments to treat the other areas once they know that the iontophoresis, at least the science of it, is working for them somewhere else.
The reason for that question is because I have a specific client who raised that question on whether the Fischer has, an iontophoresis machine for craniofacial. And I told them I haven't come across, but I believe they may have accessories as a third party. And thank you for answering that question, because now I'm free from the jaws of you said we didn't 1, 2, 3. But thank you for answering.